Good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful Saturday morning, and it's a great day to do some digitizing on our machines. I'm going to be using my Destiny, but you could also be using the Dream Machine or the Solaris or the Brother Luminaire. So we're going to learn how to use this built-in digitizing that's on the machine. On the Destiny, I'm going to use the IQ Designer, and so the First thing we're going to do this morning is we're going to go ahead and scan a design in. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on my IQ Designer. Okay, if you have either the Luminaire or the Solaris, instead of using a stylus, I would recommend getting a powered stylus, and you can get them, they fit iPads and all kinds of stuff. It's got to be one that'll plug in, that you can turn on and has power going through it. I'm looking here at my on-screen designer page. If you have the two new machines, it looks a little different. Instead, it'll have an icon that shows a picture of, looks like a file folder or whatever, and that's how you get to your scanner. So we're going to scan in that image. Where I get designs from, you can get them. Some of my favorite things to use are these Dover books. I think it's Dover has got, they're from Dover coloring books, any coloring book, and it's got lots of clear designs in here. If you have one that's not wanting to scan in, you could actually just copy it over using a fine tip Sharpie marker. What you want is a nice clean line. Pencil doesn't work really well. Some of the felt tip markers don't work really well. You want to have something really, really thin. I'm going to start with a clean design, and you may have to fix them up. Other things you can do is you can print out, you can directly connect in a JPEG into your machine. However, we find that if you take a picture from your iPhone and it saves as a JPEG, these machines have trouble reading the iPhone version of a JPEG. So in that case, what you do is you take it to your computer and do your Photoshop or whatever software you use to edit your photos, and just save it to a hard drive through that software, and that usually fixes all the problems. You don't want to pick an image that's sort of shaded all over the place. These black and white fine line drawings work perfectly and work really well. It'll tell you if it's too complex. We've had very few that it won't self-digitize. So anyway, so what I'm going to do, go back to the screen. This is the window that you can see. The Solaris one, it does not have this. It has instead a pan, and that's a pain, but you know, we'd like for them to bring back this preview window. So anyway, you have three ways of scanning. You can scan in a design, and it just brings in the image into your screen. There's no creating any digitizing to it. It's just taking a picture of what's on your, either in your hoop. This is great for, you want to copy a piece of a design off of a piece of fabric. That works really well. Or if you just want to see what your fabric looks like, this just brings up a design. You have to do all the drawing. And on the little scan icon on the newer machines that's right about here, these three will be in there in some shape or form. So this, I think, is create image. This one right here is create line image, and that's what I like to use the most, because all it does is create an outline. Create a fill image takes whatever it scans in, and it not only does an outline, but it also does the middle. It'll pull in a fill stitch. I'm just going to create a line image, and I just want to scan it. And hit OK, and so it scans. Scan, 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 scan. The Luminaire and the Solaris are a lot faster at this. Okay, so now that it's done scanning, I'm going to crop that off. There we go. And then I hit OK. That grayscale here, and it's showing you what it's come up with. And it may, and even though that was a very clean design, it's got some little globs, and sometimes it just does that. The grayscale actually changes how much it reads and how much it doesn't read. So if I take it a little, that's fine. It can also cause more gaps. I'm going to go ahead and put it back to normal. And then I hit set. And now I can look at my design up close and personal. And I want to look for some extra globs that I don't want. So I'm going to go ahead and, this is my zoom key. Now I'm going to use this preview key to scroll around and find any globs that show up. There's one. I'm going to use this eraser and the tiniest point. On the Solaris and Luminaire, it's going to give you a numerical value. I suggest you put it down at its lowest number, like less than 20 I think it's millimeters. And see, I'm just going in and removing bits, and I'm inspecting it to see if I see any gaps. Oh, there's a glob. That's just going to add extra thick stitching. Okay, here's some down here. What the secret to getting this to work is start on the outside and work close in and work out. Don't go down a long line of things without picking up your pen, because if you undo, like if I undo a bunch of them and I go too far and create a gap, I can hit undo, but then all this work I did up here is missing. So if I take this and say now I make a gap, I undo and only part of it is gone. Here's another glob. So you can clean up your design a little bit and you can scan. Now, using this little red box is nice because you can go all the way around it. Okay, and now I want to assign properties to it. And so anyway, up here we had the zoom. I'm going to go back to 100%. This is my preview. These are where I start assigning properties to the stitches. The one at the top, and it's the same on both sets of machines. These are your line functions, and these are your fill functions. These are your drawing and stamping and selecting and a whole lot of other things there. We'll go over those as we come to them. So I want to change the lines, and so I'm going to go to my properties page, and I want it to do a double run because I think that would make a nice quilting pattern. And I'm going to change it to a color I can see, like red. You have different things on here you can do. This is your drawing properties. So let's just say I select that, which is your open drawing. And I'll just do this over here. And as I draw, I hit that. That's my drawing tool. And I draw. It just draws a line. Undo. Okay, if I pick this one, which is going to take your free drawing and it's going to connect the first dot to the last dot, and I draw here, see, it makes a closed shape. Undo. And this one here just makes a line, and this is one that's very helpful. So you just draw a line, as many as you want. And the last one here is going to be point to point, which is what I usually do in regular digitizing. So I hit point, and see, it makes it a closed shape. And undo. I don't want that. Okay. Did I add there? I added an extra little point. Okay. This right here is to fill. In other words, you're going to take whatever. Here I want to change. Here I have a choice of a satin stitch. This is your drawing properties. These are your stitch properties. And you have satin stitch, double run, triple run. These are just decorative stitches. on the Solaris and Luminaire, when you select one of these, you get a whole lot more stitches than just these two. And this is an important one, that's a no-sew line, which means you're going to draw a line that you don't want to sew. That's good when you've got gaps and you can't find them. You just draw a no-sew line in the general area to clear the gap, and that fixes it. It just won't sew it. So I'm going to do a double line and hit OK. So now I'm going to flood all the lines, and if they're connected, they will all turn red. And they did. See, they all turned red. Okay, so now this one here, this region here talks about flooding, or your fill lines. So again, you've got drawing tools, and your drawing tools is you can do a round or a square, and it's just same thing. It's just going to do a big swath of stuff. This one here, and that's really about it. That just has rounded edges, that has square. And then here on the fills, you have a choice of a regular fill stitch, a stipple stitch. These are pattern stitches, and then you would select whatever pattern you want. On the Solaris and the Luminaire, you've got more than just 9 to pick from. But I'm going to go ahead and just pick, I'm just going to pick regular fill for now. And I'll pick green. Okay, those are my properties. Now here, eyedropper, both of these eyedroppers, if you have a design already partially done and you want to pick the same color and properties, that is like a copy and paste on your properties. Hi Julie, hi Judy. Okay, so now this time I am going to flood in anything that is closed in. I have a box. See, it'll fill it in with a fill stitch, and you do it as many times as you like. And you know, so do a few. I could come change color. I'll do red. I'm not going to do them all, but you get the idea. I could fill this in, get it to look however I want to. This right here is your erase key. This is your, they call it the stamp key, but what I call this the shape key, because this allows you to pick your shapes. And you have a choice of these different menus of shapes. You can take your shape as an outline, you can take your shape as a fill, and you can take your shape as a fill and an outline at the same time. So when I pick this one, I have all of these shapes, and I'll just pick one, or let's do a star. Okay, and when I hit OK, well, it's hard to see. Let me change the size on this and make it really small. Now when you're working with these shapes and stuff, you better make all the changes you want to it right away, and then use these arrow keys. Where'd it go? I lost it. Where's my, oh, here it is. There's my, and use the arrow keys in order to move it, because what happens if you lose this, and then this is your select key. And if you don't select the whole thing, you can click and drag, but look, it grabs a little bit of it, not the whole thing. So I'm going to undo. I don't want those things in there. Okay, and undo. Alrighty. Other shape, talk about the shapes. Now here's more shapes right here. Let me put a little smaller. These are more shapes, so you've got flowers and all kinds of things here to pick from. And then you have, these are just open lines or designs. This one we will talk about later, because what this does, when you're in embroidery and you use this same icon, it saves the outline of whatever that embroidery you're doing into this folder right here, so that you can use it again in Design Center. And this one right here allows you to select your hoops. So I'm just going to say, I'll just use the bigger one, but you can tell it whatever size you're using. And see, there we go. Notice I have a black box around here. That's kind of annoying, because that's in my settings page. So I go to my settings page. See, it's the 4x4 hoop. I want it bigger. I'll just leave it there. Once I fix that, that line is gone and it's out of the way. This over here allows you to lower your background and it's opposite. You think this is going to make it darker? It doesn't. This one is what makes it lighter. This makes it darker. But for some reason, that's always counterintuitive to me. And it leaves background behind. Okay, this is your select key. So again, you can select something, and then you can, once you select it, shoot, I didn't hit the select key. Select, there we go. Okay, now these light up, so I can either cut it, gets rid of everything, I hit undo, or I can, this cuts it, this incisors it, this rotates it. This one here duplicates it, so you have two. I don't want two. And this, once you copied it once, you can paste, and there it's still there. So you can copy, then go paste, 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 paste. Okay. Okay, so once we have our design looking like we want it to, we're going to assign stitches to it. So I'm going to hit, once I've got this design however I want it to look, then I can go into this save that saves it into either internal memory, your USB stick, stick to direct connect to your computer, or to your SD card. And all of these machines do have an SD card slot that you can use for additional memory, so you don't have to necessarily have a USB stick. Okay, I'll hit cancel because I really don't want to save it. Once I get it, look, then down here is cancel, all clear, undo, save into memory, pull out of memory. So if you want to continue to work on this again, say, oh, I really want to add more stuff to it or fix it, you would save it, and I'll save it into internal memory. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to assign stitches to it. Okay, now notice it's everything else is grayed out but the one box. So over here, I can make this look bigger or smaller. Select it, takes it to the different elements, and each one's going to be a different element. So I didn't want to put too many of it. And then your lines. Notice it's showing all your lines. They're kind of weird. I don't know if you can see that, but they're kind of shimmering. That means that's now selected. But when I go back to this, if I hit this link key, it's going to link all of the fill stitches together. So if I make changes to one fill stitch, I'm making changes to all the fill stitches at the same time. Okay, so now what this means, this is auto, which is your angle, you know, your stitch angle, which way the stitches go automatically, or you can take it, now they're linked together, so automatic could change them all. We'd have to let it do it and then see what it does. Or if we go to manual, then we can tell it what direction we want those stitches to go in however many, in like 15-minute increments. I hit auto again, or cancel. I don't want to do anything. This changes the density of your stitching. I usually leave this alone. Well, it depends. You're going to have to do a stitch out because it actually depends on the type of fabric and thread that you're using as to how dense it is. We have found on certain things it's too dense, like if you're stitching on card work or on cardstock, it's too dense and it tends to ripple things. So, and a lot of times, like on dish towels and stuff, it's too sparse. You can see the fabric showing through. So you can change that density. And while they're linked together, you're changing the density for all of the like stitches at a time. If you wanted this one to be dense and this one to be light, this one dense, you would have to unselect the link and do each and every little element by itself. So I'm going to cancel that. This is pull compensation, and you can change the amount of pull compensation that you want. The default is 0.012 stitches, which is okay for wovens, but if I was going to do this for a knit, I'd probably change this to 0.04. I want it a little more. What is pull compensation? If you're not sure what it is, this is the design, like right here. Okay, this is the stitch, and say the stitches go diagonally, okay? What happens is if you have too much pull and you have an outline, what will happen is that these stitches will be inside of the stitching line, and you'll see a separate line stitch on the outside, and it won't look good. You'll have a gap there. So this, if you put pull compensation on, that means if your stitches are running this way, yeah, shut up. Okay, I'm just, don't touch the screen. Stupid. Say my stitches are going this way, and I know that I want it to reach that line. The computer, those may look like they touch exactly, but the physics of actual stitching means that as they draw, that draws in as it stitches, and therefore it misses, so you want to overstitch it. So if the stitches were going this way, I'd want to and this were a knit, I'd overstitch that by 0.4 millimeters, and then those lines should meet up. But I'm just going to cancel there. I'm not going to change it. Okay, and this is on this one right here. Let me go back. This one right here is underlayment, and what underlayment is, and you don't have a choice of what kind, and I think it's just a regular zigzag through it. What underlayment is that when it stitches a box, it's going, anything bigger than a thumbnail needs to have underlayment under it if it's a fill stitch, because then what happens is the stitches get all distorted because they're all going in one direction, and the underlayment stitches a grid underneath of it, so that it's like a scaffolding that it can build the stitches on. So again, if it were anything bigger than a thumbnail, I'm going to add underlayment to it. It's going to add stitches to it, but that's that may be okay. When you first start digitizing, I would save along the way a few times as you're working, because you may have to come back and fix things. When I first started digitizing, I would have about at least 10 reworks. It would take me forever, because I'd stitch something, and I'd digitize, I'd stitch, I didn't like the way it looked, and then I'd go back and have to fix things. So what you do is you save at what you think is what your final design, then you can come back and change them. But they have to be changed in IQ Designer. Okay, so, okay, I'm going to hit set. I'm liking how it looks. Okay, what I also would have the chance to do here is I can click on this, and I can change the stitch, and I can change the color. Okay, now that one block is that color. Same thing with the lines. Okay, here's my lines. All of the lines are the same. It will change all the colors and properties for one color of line. So but in order for lines to have two different colors, they can't touch. So there's got to be a little tiny gap in those lines, or it changes them all, and it connects them all, and you have to change them. Can you see how those lines are like waving, like there's a heat wave going through them? That's telling you that's what it's active on now, and it's talking about those lines. So I linked them, so just in case there's a stray line somewhere, and I can now make a change and turn this into a satin stitch if I wanted to. And let's turn it purple. Okay, now they're purple. It still looks like a line, but I can preview this. It'll sort of show me what it looks like. And that's what it's going to look like, and I think, no, I want it to be an outline. I can now go back here and change that back to an outline. And now when I preview it, gives you another opportunity to save. Now it's showing you pretty much what it's going to look like stitched. And it's doing a triple line. And it's got 4 color stops. Okay. And say, oh, I like this, but I might want to come back and make changes. I could then save it again. And then set. Okay, and it says, okay, this is your last chance. If you hit okay, we're done. Because now it's going to go over to the embroidery part of the machine. You are now in embroidery. See, now it's an embroidery and it's ready to stitch. And then I could add more designs, or I could save this. Say if I want to add something to this, I could either add some lettering. And I'll just move it down, edit, move. Whoops, I duplicated it. I don't want to do that. Delete that. There we go. Move that down. Use the keys. When you've got one design on top of the other, don't try to click and drag it like this unless it's clear of all the other designs, because you never know what you're going to drag where. So you could, okay, and then you're into regular sewing. I could also at this point add and go back to IQ Designer, and it starts at the beginning and you can bring in another design. Like say in the case of applique. Here, I'm gonna go ahead and just get rid of everything here. I'm going to say applique. So I'm gonna bring in a shape and I'll just do a square. I don't care. Okay, and I want to do an applique, which is the three-step process. So I have step 1. You cannot combine parts of a design in IQ Designer. You can only combine in sewing, in the embroidery section. So I have my shape. I'm just going to leave it the size. I would make any changes that I want to it. And then I'm going to make I can only make a single run, so I'll make a single run. I'll leave it black. And I'll hit next. I don't want a satin stitch. I want to run. Okay, so now it's a run. I preview, send it all the way to embroidery. Add. Go back to IQ Designer. Either bring it in from memory or pick that shape again. Make whatever changes, and then I'm going to change the color to orange. A single stitch and flood it and save it. Okay, and set. Okay, and now notice I have two colors. They're both the same shape. And then I'm going to add the last element back to IQ Designer. Take in that same shape again. Okay. I want to change my properties to, let's make it pink and a satin stitch. And then flood it so that it's a big pink line. And then now when I go to next, I have a satin stitch. Okay, I'll leave it at the satin stitch. But it is now showing you how wide it is. 0.080 is not wide enough. I need it bigger, like about 1/4 of an inch thick. And hit set. This changes the density. Also, I noticed that when you're doing a wide satin stitch, it's too sparse, so I up that density a little bit. And now when I preview it, nice thick satin stitch, and bring it to sewing. So I'm going through all that, and now it's ready. There's my applique. So if I go embroidery, I'm not going to stitch it out, but you get the idea. So let's do plus and minus. Here's the first one, which is my placement stitch, my tack down, and the sealing in satin stitch. So then when I then I would have to save this in embroidery to get the full applique. Like I said, only one element in my design center can be done at one time. Any editing or combining has to be done in the embroidery machine part. So that's cool, huh? Okay, let's do something else. So let's go, I'm going to clear. Okay, I'm going to go to embroidery and I'm going to pick a design. Let me see what we got here. I don't like that. No. Oh, let's do the heart. Okay, so I hit set. I want to stitch this out, and I want to This is embroidery block. So what I want to do here is I want to stitch this out. After that, put your batting and your backing underneath of the hoop and do stippling around it. So we can use our IQ Designer in order to do that. So I'm going to stitch it here. There's that same shape we saw before. Okay? Right here. Okay? How far, maybe this says how far away from that design do you want that outline? I want it to be a little bit wider than that. That's about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, and then I'm going to take that to IQ. And see this little icon here? Save that into IQ. Okay. Alrighty, so then it said, okay, it's going to remember it in the stamp. Then I'm going to add. Okay, IQ design. So I hit add, and I want to hit from IQ Designer. This time I want to go into my patterns over here, so that's the stamp or the shape tool. I'm going to pick that little flower icon, and it's the same in the Solaris, and look, there's the design, saved outline. So it saves that outline and then brings it out on the screen, and there we go. Okay, and I'm going to actually go into the shapes tool again, and I want to pick my hoop. And let's just say I'm picking the 9.5 by 9.5 inch hoop. Hit OK. It's showing you the outer edges of the hoop. So what I want to do is, this is right now set to stitch. So I'm going to put this on a no-sew line. And I'm going to flood this. And let's see, do I have it? Sometimes. Okay, it's kind of, it turns kind of gray. If you hear this, that means that, no, you got nothing to do. So the no-sew line is already there. Okay, so I go back to 100%. So now when I go to my fill properties, I'm going to pick my fancy, I can pick a regular stipple. And we'll do that. I'll make a pink stipple. Okay, regular stippling, and then I flood in between the two designs, and there's my stippling. Okay, so when I hit next, now my properties here, and there's only one, showing the information for stippling. It's saying that it's going, the stitches are going to be, no, that's about, I don't know how long that is, but I think that's, I usually like them a little bit longer. One, like, I like run pitch. If you, this is, if you think of this as like singers, so 12 to the inch, that's about 1/8 of an inch apart. I'd like my stitches a little further apart. Okay, then I want this to be 1/4 of an inch. Now it's at, oh, it's too far. There, it's close enough. Oh, 2.25 is what I'm looking for. A minute. A little more. Oh, close enough. There we go. Then I hit set. And this is how far away from this design do you want the stippling to start. 0.8 is fine. Too close, then the stippling runs into the design. Too far apart, it sort of sticks out. So I'm just going to leave the default. Now I hit preview. And there we go. And then when like that looks good. So as I bring that to the design, there is my stippling already there. I'm going to delete that. Okay. I'm going to instead add IQ Designer, bring that shape back in. There's the shape. This time I'm going to pick these fancy fills. And I have several to choose from. Let's see, what do I want to do? I like the circles. We'll do circles. Okay, and I can make those orange. Okay, so I flood there. Okay, oops, undo. I forgot to set the hoop size, 9.5 by 9.5. Okay, so flood there. That's my stippling. Now, on my properties, I have a few other things to add here. This one I can make these bigger or smaller. So if I want to do pebbles, just makes them really tiny. This changes the angle. Right now they're going straight across, but if I want them to go at, say, 45 degrees, okay? And this is an outline stitch. That means it's going to do an outline where the stitching, I don't like that. I'm going to leave it off. So, I'll hit set and preview and OK. And see, now these are not, before they were straight in line. This just gives it a different look. Set, OK. There's my stippling. Whole different stippling look to it. And that's really all that is to that. You can rewind this, and I urge you to go to your machine with the tape, rewind it, and try to recreate what I've done. You can always email me at waltzquilt@yahoo.com. So anyway, that's about all I have for you today. So everybody, you guys have a good weekend. I'll see you guys. Bye.